Hello there. Australia is a tinderbox, ready to explode after the knife attack in the Sydney church yesterday, which is why the press is now trying to bury the story, possibly because they know how close civil war is and have been given their orders. But the real reason may be something quite remarkable and wonderful that has come out of the attack, something the global elite don't want to let loose, something that could change the hearts of the many and change the world. Yesterday's attack on Bishop Mar Mari Emmanuel in Australia was front page news, until the police declared it to be an ideologically motivated terrorist incident allegedly perpetrated by a 16-year-old boy who reportedly said that he was doing it because the bishop insulted his prophet. Then it all goes very quiet. That front page news was basically spiked very, very quickly. But maybe not for the reason that immediately springs to mind. A reason that made this a very challenging video for me to make. I struggled long and hard over this one. So I do hope you'll follow through to the end of the video with me. Because my initial response to all this was anger. Anger that someone would do such a thing. But what the bishop did straight after the attack pulled me up short. I had to rethink and reset myself. And right now the Australian police are actively hunting down the angry hundreds of rioters that instantly turned out in response to that incident. They were determined to get their hands on the bishop's attacker to the extent they injured police and emergency first responders. If you were involved in that, you can expect a knock on the door, said the New South Wales Police Commissioner Karen Webb. And the message of the attack got out so quickly because the sermon was being live streamed at the time. And it is further alleged that the attacker waited until the stream had started in order to generate maximum effect. And the response was wide and very emotionally charged. And that tells me that Christianity is strongly supported there. Except for one issue. Please bear with me on this. Now, the Assyrian Christ the Good Shepherd Church, where the incident took place, is in Wakeley, a suburb of Sydney in New South Wales, Australia. And the bishop is well loved and has a large social media following. But what is being called by the police as an emotional response by the crowd of up to 5,000 protesters to the attack on the bishop and the injuries sustained by others, including Father Isaac Royal, might have surprised many people, especially the establishment. After all, it's one of many churches in Sydney. But it's what the bishop did immediately after the attack that will challenge all those who think of themselves as Christian, and also challenge the protesters who got over-exuberant. As those brave church attendees restrained the young lad, Bishop Emmanuel stood up and, despite the wounds he had just suffered, he laid a hand on the perpetrator and prayed for him. That is a true Christian act. It is a call to action for all Christians. And Bishop Emmanuel has also since called for calm, no retribution. Now, I'm not saying we should just forgive people. I'm saying we should pray for their salvation. This is the bedrock of why Christianity has survived for over 2,000 years. It has also been the bedrock of Western civilization, including in the UK, up until recently, that is. As I've said before, Christianity is under attack in the UK, especially from within the church establishment, it seems. Well, to me anyway. So finding out that there is at least one Christian preacher out there who is loved by so many for being the one thing they all hate, a true Christian living as Christ taught, must be a real shock to the establishment. Especially a priest who questioned the lockdowns and the jibby-jabby. And worse for them, there may be many more like him out there. And you can see in their actions the last thing that our establishment will want is a resurgence of Christianity. It might get too many people asking too many questions. There is another question mark. According to some reports, the knife may have failed to open or even got broke during the attack. The video shows the attacker momentarily stopping and looking at the knife, suggesting something was wrong with it. Possibly the reason why the bishop survived the onslaught. Just luck? Or something more, maybe. Perhaps it was not his time. But maybe also another reason to bury the story. And one of the tactics being used is to try and victim shame the bishop by pointing to his questioning of various government responses to the pandemic and pointing out how controversial he is over the gender and homosexuality issues, etc. But looking back at the contents of the Bible, you get the impression that the most successful preachers were the most controversial, led by Christ himself. Anyway, the establishment, which is now run by those who followed through with the Marxist long march through the institutions, requires a malleable population who will supinely absorb all the indignity, control and abuse they need to dish out in order to subjugate us. Their new world order, which has no place in it for true Christianity. A truly Christian society would not agree with every rainbow and every unicorn that the emerging Marxist state is now throwing at us. They might start openly countering a lot of that stuff we are told not to just tolerate, but to actively agree with and participate in. They might start pointing out that some of it is indeed very, very evil. And I would argue that it is the push to become a secular state that is leading to all our current woes. It's as if our claim to have a society based on Judeo-Christian beliefs is being tested. How can a society live by a set of beliefs when it no longer believes in the very thing that supplied those beliefs? We now have a society that is more and more based on faceless bureaucrats, billionaires, two-faced politicians and a lying mainstream press, all circulating around greed. Our power to act as independent human beings is being leached away. Our core beliefs are being stamped on. Now, I know many people out there don't believe in a God, and therefore that the wonders of the universe are all just part of some sort of grand accident. Something that would mean that emotions like the love you have for family, friends and pets is nothing more than an internal, chemically induced response. Without God, we are just chemical robots, nothing more. No soul. But I believe we are all so much more. And look at what's happening to our society as we turn ever more away from our Christian heritage. There is a reason why I see so many British people on social media hankering for the early to mid-years of the last century. In my view, increased secularism will bring the death of our society. It has already brought us two-tier policing and justice, increased corruption, increased low-level crimes like shoplifting. I could go on. Distrust is sown ever wider, and it's also bringing with it an underlying tone of societal self-hatred. Something that bolsters a certain demographic, by the way. The message for me is clear. If we in the UK want to return to proper Christian values, then we must as a nation turn back to Christianity itself. There is no substitute. So maybe we should heed the message of Bishop Emmanuel. What do you think?